with another video. This is about I Expose Bricks and Minifigs part, I think. I don't know what part it is right now, but I love the series. I love this video.
By the way, I was like a little quiet in this video.
The last video of I Expose Bricks and Minifigs part 3 and 4, so it's part 5. This is part 5, guys. And we're gonna be calculating this. Okay, so the last video, Reckless Ben's friend said there was another portion of Legos that got stolen. We're gonna look at this video, and they said instead of the $107,000, when they said there was an extra 50,000. So if we calculate that, I did some calculating, and it would be $157,000. So that would be the extra Legos going to that, and we're gonna go to this.
Okay, we're having a little technical difficulties here, so hope you guys are enjoying the video as much as I am.
And he's cooked Bricks and Minifigs. Bricks and Minifigs just agreed to pay Reckless Ben back. This is 2-in-1 video, and one's 13 minutes, one's 8 minutes. We're gonna go with the 13-minute one right now. We're gonna basically
sorry for the ad.
Breakdown. Sorry for the ad. But we're gonna do a whole breakdown.
Find motion. Restore the heart system.
This genuinely might be the biggest twist in the entire Bricks and Minifigs series in quite a while, and probably a couple weeks now, because the new information we have now could possibly change everything. So, since the CoffeeZilla video, and honestly since the beginning of this whole series, we have seen from the start Bricks and Minifigs trying to correct the $200,000 value of Brian Mansell's collection to the closer to $90,000 to $100,000 range.
Yeah.
And even in CoffeeZilla's investigation, his video he made a couple weeks ago, he found the value was likely around a mid-range of $107,000. He confirmed this with Crystal, and since CoffeeZilla's investigation, that has been the number that everyone, including myself, has ran with. It's $107,000, and $200,000 was just the promotional number used at the beginning. It never represented the actual value of the collection, but today we have information that might actually be false. $107,000 might be a huge undercut on what this collection is actually worth. So this information comes from the LUS and Sheldon Norcross interview. Now, if you don't remember who Sheldon Norcross is, he was a guy in one of Reckless Ben's videos where he had that police encounter where they took his phone and he locked his phone before he gave it to them, and the police were really mad about that, and they kind of mistreated him there. So that's the guy who did this interview. He did this interview with LUS on YouTube a couple days ago, but it didn't get a ton of exposure, and for how insane this is, it definitely should be getting more, and that's part of the reason I'm making this video. But Sheldon Norcross gives us some very interesting insights into the actual collection's value, and where CoffeeZilla might have actually been wrong in his $107,000 estimate and his investigation as a whole. Now, first, I do want to say this is not to hate on CoffeeZilla by any means. He does great work, and I still think his video was honest and genuine, and he was trying to get to the bottom of this as much as possible, and this wasn't his intention or anything. There's no way he intentionally left this out, and he did the best that he could, and this isn't to spread hate to CoffeeZilla by any means, but it appears his investigation may have been missing some very vital facts that have just been kind of hard to find and hard to realize with all these gag orders, the temporary restraining order, and everything like that, silencing all these people involved with the situation that would want to get this information out, but otherwise couldn't because of all of the gag orders. But Sheldon gives us some really good info on the collection's actual value. The biggest development here is he tells us there is $50,000 of uninventoried bags full of LEGO Star Wars minifigures.
According to CoffeeZilla, there was only $20,000 of Legos left. And here's
which was didn't make it in the video. For one, there was about $50,000 worth of inventory that Crystal had never added in because Brian had giant bags full of Lego Star Wars minifigure pieces that were worth.
And by the way, I also recorded this a little like a month ago.
Tons of
I think
bags
not a
full,
month
and if you
ago.
listen,
And he never
A few
listened.
days ago or
this is the
a
first
few
time.
weeks.
Well, it's because everyone's gagged.
Sorry for the
one can
delay.
talk. And it's like, well, we never mentioned that in the video because it's like, I guess it's like it's just an unprovable thing. Now, if you don't know, Lego Star Wars minifigures are worth quite a bit, and judging from Brian Mansell's collection, they made up a significant portion of it. I mean, Lego Star Wars minifigures can cost as much as thousands of dollars on the rarer end, and even more mid-tier ones are easily $50 to $100 each, if they're even slightly rare at all. So, this is a big deal, and $50,000 of minifigures is a lot. And apparently, CoffeeZilla never really got to that. He never really learned that info from anyone. I'm not entirely sure how he missed that, but I'm not going to try to blame him for that, whatever. But he missed this $50,000 minifigure portion of the collection. So let's just say we add this $40,000 to $50,000, Sheldon says, to the collection's value. Now it is up to roughly $147,000 to $157,000, much closer to the $200,000 range. So how do we get to the $200,000 range, right? This collection isn't worth $200,000 from these minifigures alone, is it? Well, let's move on further, where Sheldon, in this interview, actually says CoffeeZilla made a vital mistake in his investigation.
Or he mentioned, didn't calculate the numbers right,
which is backdoor deal. Brian told us about that.
I love
why would we bring that up in the video? Brian had an extra Cloud City set that Crystal got him back. So there was never a backdoor deal. All CoffeeZilla had to do was talk to Brian or talk to me, and he would have known that doesn't even have any relevancy. Those did not subtract from any
in the investigation and trying to add all this stuff together and just trying to crack the case.
Value of the stuff in the store. Those were duplicate sets he was keeping to give to his children. And once this bricks and minifigs thing happened, Brian decided he was going to sell those because his whole collection was lost. So those were never part of the value. So subtracting those from the value is categorically incorrect. And basically, what CoffeeZilla did is he used all the different side deals and other things involved with this collection and subtracted them from the value of the main collection. So basically, at one point, I think Crystal apparently returned a Cloud City and some other sets to Brian Mansell. And Bricks Minifigs has covered that in their blog post. We've already gone over that quite a bit, but that very well could have been $15,000, $20,000 or even more worth of sets. And CoffeeZilla, of course, subtracted that from the total value of the collection. But that may have been a mistake, according to Sheldon. Sheldon says that those were actually not a part of the original consignment deal or collection. Those were separate sets that Brian Mansell was planning to give to his kids or keep or do whatever with and was not planning to sell, but because of this whole ordeal, he kind of needed to sell because the rest of his collection was gone, and he didn't see any point in keeping them or handing them off because the rest of his collection was basically stolen from under him. So he wanted to sell these other sets, including another Cloud City, which, if you didn't know, that's worth like $10,000 to $15,000 depending on the condition and everything like that. So that is a significant portion of its side deal value that Coffee kind of tied to the main collection, the main value, which makes sense. I mean, that's what I would assume, but apparently that wasn't even a part of the main consignment deal. So subtracting this $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 or more from this main collection value was a mistake, and that actually undermined the value of the collection. So let's just say that the amount of money in this side deal with this Cloud City and other stuff that Crystal returned to Brian, let's say it was $20,000, right? We know there was a Cloud City in there, so at the very least it's $10,000. I've heard there were many more items than the Cloud City, so as a low estimate, let's just go $20,000 was in this side deal that CoffeeZilla mistakenly subtracted from the main collection's value. Add $20,000 to our $140,000, $150,000 evaluation from before, and now it's up to $160,000 to $177,000, much closer to $200,000. And this is a very conservative estimate as far as this whole side deal thing goes. We don't know exactly how many sets were in these side deals that weren't related to the collection that CoffeeZilla subtracted from the main value of the collection. So it very well could be more. It could add up to $200,000, more than $200,000. I'm not sure. I don't have the numbers and all these sets in front of me, but like I said, just estimating on the low end and knowing if there was a Cloud City involved in that, we can estimate probably at the very least $20,000 involved in that side deal. But here is where it gets insane. Now, I'm warning you, I'm going to get a little bit speculative here. I'm just going to use what I can see from all the facts and what I can kind of assume as my personal opinion. This is definitely not proven or anything like that. But if we go back to the U-Haul story and how, Ammon and Matt McNeff, the CEO and COO of Bricks Minifigs, were being interviewed by CoffeeZilla and defending the U-Haul story, trying to cover it up, and then trying to explain it away with evidence.
We're having a little technical difficulties. Don't worry. Get back to the thing very soon. Hold up. I'll get right here.
On the low end, and knowing that there was a Cloud City involved in that, we can estimate probably at the very least $20,000 involved in that side deal. But here is where it gets insane. Now, I'm warning you, I'm going to get a little bit speculative here. I'm just going to use what I can see from all the facts and what I can kind of assume as my personal opinion. This is definitely not proven or anything like that.
But by the way, we talked about the U-Haul on here on this channel. We also talked about the U-Haul, and we talked about how it was there and what happened and what was going on. You can go back to part 3. I think it was part either 3 or 4. You can go back to those. And if you need a recap.
If we go back to the U-Haul story and how, Ammon and Matt McNeff, the CEO...
By the way, I also mentioned the U-Haul in one of my videos. I mentioned that
of the takeover, and we did get an employee talking about how there were bags of Lego Star Wars sets and minifigures in this U-Haul brought to the Eugene store, I believe the same night or the next day or whatever it was, somewhat connected to the night of the takeover. Well, this actually makes a lot more sense. So, if you think about this, right, if Bricks and Minifigs are indeed the villainous, suspicious people that we think they are based on everything we've seen from the situation and how they conduct interviews, how they treat people, and all of that, when they were doing the store takeover, imagine they found $50,000 unmarked in these bags of unmarked minifigures that were not marked at all and were not on the consignment spreadsheet. That is the important distinction. So there's no evidence outside of what Brian could say or anyone else could say that this portion of minifigures is connected to Brian and that it doesn't belong to Bricks and Minifigures. So what does, Brandon Best do? He takes those unmarked minifigure bags, packs them in a U-Haul with who knows whatever else. But I'm just saying, if you were a suspicious person, if you were looking to steal some Lego, then an unmarked bag of minifigures worth $40,000 to $50,000 that no one can prove it doesn't belong to Bricks and Minifigs, that would be a pretty good target for some stuff you wanted to take. Now, like I said, I don't know for sure if he did take those minifigure bags. I don't know where they are now. I don't have evidence to back this up. I'm just saying the facts on the table and everything we know about the character of Bricks and Minifigs, Ammon, Matt, Brandon, Josh, everyone involved with the situation on the side of Bricks and Minifigs, I'm just saying it makes a lot of sense for the $50,000 minifigure portion of the collection to be a target. And this also makes a lot more sense and explains why the $200,000 promotional figure was used for this collection in the beginning, because it very well could have been worth much closer to $200,000 than the $107,000 figure we had. Now, I don't know why Crystal, somewhat agreed with CoffeeZilla talking about the collection being worth $107,000. Maybe it's because he didn't talk about the minifigures, and she just assumed that was the value of the sets that were not a part of any side deal or anything like that, and $107,000 was the average for all these sets, not including minifigures. And if that's the case, that does make enough sense for me for this, for this to be logical and for all the facts to line up. So, I don't know that Crystal didn't bring up the $50,000 minifigure bags. I'm not entirely sure. But I do somewhat trust, Sheldon here in this interview when he's talking about this because he says, the reason it hasn't come out yet is because all these gag orders, the temporary restraining order, and from the beginning of this temporary restraining order taking effect, Ben has alluded to some crazy facts in this case. And he's basically said there's some crazy stuff happening in this case, and he wishes he could talk about it.
By the way, if you want to go to that GoFundMe and help Brian out and Reckless Ben, you can, if you want. The link is right here. You can go search it up. And yeah.
And I'm just saying, a $50,000 unmarked, not on the consignment spreadsheet, $50,000 random bag of minifigures that belongs to Grindman Cell, being an easy target for theft, and lining up with the timeline of U-Haul being there the same night of the takeover, that seems like a